Kichotes on wheels. The actors, things, and people. The Don Quixotes.
Sigitas Kučas, Bodeče Pite, Edvardas Žižys, Slawomir Platek, and 600 others.
The wheels. My bicycle, car, train, and airplanes.
Dulcinea, peace.
Immediately after the explosion in the United States, almost simultaneously, the fastest means of information and its transmission was stuffed with exclamations of anxiety and horror. Unfortunately, among them appeared such opinions which simply lacked common sense and tolerance. Fortunately, though, such were but a few. During chat sessions, they had been made ashamed by the most intercalative. This uncensored dialogue revealed that relics of undemocratic provincial thinking and intolerance are still stuck deep inside us. All this stimulated the authors of this film to recall the great Millennium peace ride around the world, and to speak not only of the exotic character of the countries visited, but about love at first sight, love to the first human being, love to one's neighbouring kin. That is the basis for peace. "15 years ago, none of the four of us travelling around the world couldn't even dream of such an opportunity to leave our country. We lived as if imprisoned for the past 50 years. During the whole century, Lithuanians were scattered around the whole world. They were exiled to Siberia, displaced to Germany, or emigrated to America, not of their own free will. They had been compelled to. This time we did it at our own pleasure, on a voluntary basis. And so, as volunteers, on the 6th of August, the anniversary of the tragedy in Hiroshima, a bike ride began in the American city of Seattle by representatives of 10 European countries. Countries that have had quite a few disagreements in the past. A Russian, a Pole, a Turk, 3 Germans and 4 Lithuanians. What could have been in common between a 20-year-old first-year student Slavik and a 64-year-old pensioner Winter? Businessman Ahmed and historian Gediminus. Why was there only one woman in the group? Why was the whole tour guided by a physicist? While riding around the world during our rather frequent meetings with journalists, we tell them about Lithuania, and as a specimen we narrate about the January events and about the Baltic Road when 2 million people, standing hand in hand, achieved independence for Lithuania. One may say that since then, a peaceful fight for independence has started. We also characterize this phenomenon as a model example as to how all conflicts in the world map may be solved in a peaceful way. Our tour was dedicated to that purpose. We have celebrated the first 1,000 kilometers. Every day we stick our banner, unfold the map. People come up, chat with us, ask many questions. While talking to them, an excellent idea came to my mind. Riding bikes doesn't create any threat or danger. Quite the reverse. Contacting people is peace, and that is our final goal. The weather is wonderful, the sun is shining and the wind is at our back. However, as the Lithuanian saying goes, there is no smoke without fire. Just as we start trying to distribute some duties in our group, making meals, doing the washing up, providing the bus, the first internal military conflicts arise. We are all very different, and not only as to our age groups, but also regarding our financial standing. Some of us can afford hotels and restaurants, while the others obstinately sleep in tents and save every penny. Dennis has left us. He was not satisfied about the speed and the fact that too much time was wasted on conversations about peace. The trip through America lasted for almost a month. All that time we were supported, hosted and cared for by American Lithuanians, whom we had contacted by the internet. By the way, another exaggerated myth didn't prove correct. It occurred that the internet, invented in America, is only for Americans. On our route we were not allowed, for love or money, to connect to our laptops to the local telephone lines. Thus, Sigitas had to buy a very expensive mobile phone. Don't forget that the year is 1998. Without the internet we feel disabled. It helps new people to join our group and we use it to send messages to Lithuania. In San Diego, having learned that Slavik was intending to turn back home as his money was coming to an end, the Polish community raised as much as $1,000 for him.
While still in America, we had been warned. In Mexico, nobody speaks English. Whatever you try to ask them remains without reply. Mexicans hate Americans and avenge them, as the latter are considered to be rich. Let alone people, the Mexican nature is also hostile to Americans. Here, all white people are regarded as Americans. Whoever comes to Mexico inevitably falls ill with a horrible disease, diarrhea. There is no remedy to prevent it. The poor patient wants only one thing, to die. One can't drink unboiled water. Fruits have to be washed with boiled water as well. Thieves are everywhere. Atrocities of armed gangs. Keep together, otherwise you'll be robbed, plundered, and you'll have nobody to complain to. The police are corrupt, laws are absurd.
We were able to experience that too. In the middle of the road we met a barrier. The territory of the local municipality was stretching for about 200 kilometers. Americans may enter the zone leaving a pledge that equals their car value. Ours they estimated $3,500. On our way back the money had to be refunded. However, we had not planned to return to America, so could not expect to have our deposit back. With much difficulty we managed to bargain a decrease to $250. Even that was too much for us though. There was no other escape but to make a detour via the United States. Again frontiers, formalities, again customs, again control. Mexican, American, American, Mexican. But Mexican state racketeers hadn't received profit money, our $250. We dine in restaurants, sometimes even in luxurious ones. In most cases, gratis. Sometimes we have breakfast, and even lunch free of charge, as we are welcomed and seen off as celebrities. We don't go to bed earlier than 12 or 1 a.m. Already at 4 in the morning we get up. At 5, sit on the bikes. We ride by night, in complete darkness, since the daytime heat is absolutely inhuman, always over 40 degrees Celsius, in the shade. Distances are tremendous. Instead of the planned 80 kilometers, our daily average is 130. The record we have established was 168 kilometers per day, or per night. How to put it? We are in a constant hurry. It's not allowed to be late. At fixed hours, we are expected to meet sponsors, the guard, cycling fans, the public. Those get-togethers are advertised in placards, through newspapers, local radio, television. Almost every day, our coloured pictures appear right under the newspaper titles. Oh, Mexico, Mexico.
Guatemala. The group changes in every country. In the United States, we created our inner climb and shared the duties. In Mexico, Fleur took the leadership, no divergence from the established program. Guatemala is total improvisation. We never know where we will stop at, how far we will travel, where we will meet, or who we are supposed to have contacts with. In the end, we became more friendly. We love one another and are happy to be together. We do not require anybody to be perfect.
Ahmed and Christopher, who had their passports and credit cards stolen, caught up with the group. The German embassy in Mexico gave them new documents within a day. If such an accident happened to Lithuanians, that would mean an end to the trip, because to obtain new visas would cause tremendous problems. In Costa Rica, the whole group of bikers came to picket in front of the Panama embassy, requesting that the 3 Mexicans who had joined our group continue to ride together.
At present, Edwardas is in the hospital. He had eye surgery. I stayed with him. The rest of the group are continuing the traveling.
El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica and Panama, with all their exotic objects and adventures, remained unfilmed. It possibly was to the better that nobody had been shooting while crossing the principal route of drug dealers in the jungle. Who knows? Only after a month and a half in the Columbine city of Medellin, Goda and Edward caught up with the main group. This reunion took place in the house of the great-grandson of the celebrated Abraomis Kulvietis. The host son was the famous Lithuanian artist-painter Eugenius Kulvietis. Though the owners do not speak Lithuanian, the spirit of Lithuanian hospitality and family feeling are still alive here. Sounds nice. It is said that nothing is accidental. However, a quiet, unintentionally encountered woman who had offered us shelter for the night appeared to be from Seattle, the city where our travels started. Her father was a German and her mother, to our greatest amazement, a Lithuanian. Thus, this chance to stay, Lithuanians, Germans and Seattle, at her house, where she nurtures homeless children, seemed a smile of providence to us.
Ordinary people are sedentary, accustomed to live in one place. Their eyes enviously follow travelers, tourists, tramps. Then they return back to their cozier home hearts. To invite their strange wanderers, one has to be determined enough.
It is doubtful whether many Lithuanians, who are normally so proud of their hospitality, would dare to shelter a dozen foreigners, even if they had enough room. A dozen not just well-to-do foreigners, but ragged, famished, strange vagabonds.
We got financial problems. The van swallows up lots of money. However, we can't dispense with it at present. Edward, at best, will have to travel by car for at least 2 or 3 months.
Our ill success regarding a van started in Ecuador. The van's brakes failed while descending the highest mountains of Ecuador. Gediminas, who was driving, managed to stop it by using the handbrake. It was a miraculous escape from the worst. Our failures continued on arrival in Peru. Before driving into Lima after 1,000-kilometer nocturnal voyage through the desert, the semi-axle broke down and the gearbox fell to pieces. The cyclists who had gathered to welcome us at the approaches to the town did not scatter and kept waiting for a few hours until, under accompaniment of the brass band, our shabby peace van with us in it was dragged into the city. The situation was sadly comical.
While in the Peru mountains, we remained alive only owing to our van. There were 18 of us. The basic group consisted of 7 Peruvians, a Brazilian man, and a Colombian woman. After drowsing summer heat and warm surf of the Pacific Ocean, today we have experienced true winter for the first time. High in the Andes, we were unexpectedly overtaken by snow and piercing cold. It got dark, started to snow.
Ahmed, who was conveying ammunition, began to feel anxious, turned back to search after the group that had stuck in the mountains. Oliver generously loaned his warmest clothing to 16-year-old Maria. She laughed and cried at seeing snow for the first time. Edward was doing aerobics. Ivan and Marzo were drinking hot coffee. However, Guinter was blue with cold. He was not able to ride, stopped, got frozen, and not knowing what to do, prayed. After we had reached the village, it was difficult to recognize us. Smiling faces were covered with mud. Only eyes were shining.
The coming down turned out to be even more complicated than climbing up. The bicycle was jumping up and down over big stones as if we were riding a horse. Because of sudden dragging, I managed to fall down 3 times. Christmas mood was in the air. We shared Christmas traditions of our countries, traditional meals sent by DHL, drank chocolate and wished peace to one another.
On New Year's Eve, we visited the Jura Isles floating on Lake Titicaca and people dwelling on rafts. Here everything is made of reed, both houses and islands on which they are built, boats as well. Handmade islands have one major drawback. Every half year a new layer of reed has to be spread as the lower one rots. Nevertheless, the natives aren't afraid of unexpected guests, as the endless lake preserves all the secrets of their way of living, trades and customs. Apparently it had been safer to live on isles than elsewhere, or it might be that this peaceful tribe left the militarized continent ages ago. Thus they chose probably the only chance to survive instead of disappearing or being exterminated, as was the doom of the constructors of the colossal canyon amphitheater. At present, nobody is able to say anything of the people who lived, loved and died here, or of those who from field stones laid out mysterious figures, which may be perceived only from the bird's flight. The fragile life thread of all civilizations eternally hangs on love, hope and peace that are so frail. The broken peace most often means that the destruction of civilization.
From Border's letter on the internet. On the border, we bid farewell to the Peru team. Only Walter remained with us. On entering Chile, while crossing the frontier, we once more had to fight the windmills. We were urged to unload all the things for checking. Despite our compliance, the frontier guard became furious when somebody attempted to bite an apple. After Peru, Chile seemed a kind of disaster for us. We need control everywhere. In every village they check our documents. Before setting out to the desert, we sat on the pavement for a snack, but right away the police appeared and told us to clear off. If you happen to loaf about aimlessly, immediately you will be spotted by the security service that seems to hide around every corner. We felt secure.
In Santiago, we said goodbye to the eldest member of the march, 64-year-old Guinter. He was forced to finish the tour due to financial difficulties. The others also feel a constant lack of means. Lithuanians travel on the last savings of their own and their close ones, and they still fail to find financial support in Lithuania. What a pity that a video camera is not able to establish all the danger and roughness of the travelling, for the road you are either riding or walking is never utterly safe. You may come across various dangers, to begin with roadblocks, and end with nighttime surprises.
Baigiant naktiniais netikėtumais. Iš Edvardo Dienos.
from Edward's diary in Argentina. I am riding down the path parallel to the highway. At the crossing I saw a car that, having come from the left side of the road glaring with all its lights, stopped. I thought the driver had evidently noticed me and intended to pass me. I am passing in front of that car. At that time it gave a sudden pull, and with all the force hit my bicycle's rear wheel. I felt a strong blow. The bike began to slide, and with a crash fell down on its side, and me rolling down over my head. A pang of pain penetrates my leg. It's bleeding. The wheel is not broken, only the axle is knocked out. The frightened driver bandages my wound, and even thrusts a banknote into my palm. Not much, 10 pesos, but it is much better to get money than a slap in the face. I might have deserved it for cycling without lights at night. Limping, I bring the bike and see our company talking with the police. Goda starts explaining to me.
A horrible accident has happened. Oscar and the Argentinians were severely hit by a car. They were taken to the hospital. Sigida has gone to them. The three of them had been riding together. Walter along the white strip, those two next to him along the bicycle path. The driver might have probably fallen asleep. There were no obstacles on the road. It occurred that our pals managed to escape major injuries. The Argentinian may be discharged even tonight. Walter has got awful scratches and multiple bruises on his body. Fortunately, no bone fractures. He'll have to stay in the hospital for another 3 days.
No, Walter did not need any 3 days. This morning he's already with us. His entire body is bandaged in many places, blood is soaking through. The doctor stated that his body bruises are equal to the burns of a 3rd degree. If we had no van in which Walter was carried right to the capital of Argentina, he would have never seen either Africa, Europe or Asia, and his destiny would have turned differently. Unfortunately, a man can't change his fate. Refugees and emigrants from Europe are scattered over the whole American continent. After the uprising of Lithuanians against the Tsar in 1831, Kichote found asylum in Chile and became one of the most celebrated scientists of this country. He reorganized higher education according to the model of Vilnius University. His name has been immortalized by giving it to the mountain range in the Andes, to the extinct mollusca species, to a flower and a mineral. Lithuanians can't sit at home. They strive to explore the world, thus they amaze others. Our Lithuanian nation is small, but diligent.
In the community of a numerous and vital Lithuanian community, we have celebrated the 16th of February, Lithuanians' Independence Day. In Argentina's capital, Buenos Aires, we bid farewell to our precious van, as we had not managed to find a ship or ferry that might take us to Africa. Goodbye to the wheels. Only what means of transport will carry our belongings, water, us, should we die? Not all of us leave the airport. There remains Edward's stolen sack with the cameras. Gediminas stays. To continue the voyage, he lacks money and something more.
I should say this is more like traveling around the world than promoting the idea of peace. Regarding the idea of peace, how we may strive for it, well, may be illustrated by examining the Kosovo conflict. In addition, a human can't escape waging a war. It would be absurd to try to achieve it. How can a man live without warfare? Just try not to be on war terms. For thousands of years we have been fighting wars, and we will in the 3rd millennium, and in the 4th, if only we still manage to be here, to survive. Well, it's possible to try, but that would be a kind of monkey business. Well, my frank opinion is that the main stress should be put on travelling round the world, on bicycles, leaving peace alone.
From Oliver's letter, we have been traveling together for almost half a year. I love and respect every member of the ride. I've learned something from everyone and made a big step toward my goal to be tolerant. And there's more to it. I'm very grateful to both Central and South Americas. You've given us much hope. You have not met a single racist. We never felt unwanted. On the contrary, you've always welcomed us with special friendliness and hospitality. You know, I'm a German. The history of my country is far from positive. Especially Germans have to learn that all people are the same, from whatever part of the world they come. Our lives are similar. I feel ashamed of those who consider their own country better than somebody else's. Peace is for everybody.
Vilkai pernai vasarą miškai, žemuogėm pakytę šienų klūniai, man tik retai trumpi tavo laiškai, man niekad nesibaigianti kelionė, aplink pasaulį tūkstančiais kelių, asfalto smėlio akmenų ir žvyro, nors aš tave beprotiškai myliu, aš tik tavęs kelionėje ieškojau.
How are your spirits?
Rather low. I don't want to go.
You mean you don't want to go to Lithuania?
Not by bike.
You don't want to go by bike? Then stay. Have a look, there's trading going on at our place.
Neither do I want to stay. I'm scared. Since early morning we have been under observation. They held to it. I can't help anymore.
They are observing because they are amazed. Actually, it is very strange to them. Africans consider Europeans as millionaires living in paradise, where milk, honey, and rivers of wine flow. They normally don't ride bicycles. And these Europeans are not only attentive, polite, and not arrogant. They don't look haughty and don't refuse to treat themselves to a masculine drink. Whereas the women are busy with their direct duties, they take care of tomorrow and throw the grain into the still, warm soil that has been recently regained from the jungle.
I haven't had a bath for 2 days. What a horrible thing.
Indeed.
My teeth are covered with moss.
I haven't had a wash in Africa so far, perhaps.
As to washing,
Hey, look, it's the 32nd day, isn't it?
what?
The 32nd day in Africa is today.
The 32nd? How many times have we had a bath? Tell me, please.
Water is more expensive than gold. Water means hope, life, and conflict. Whole regions are doomed to endure thirst and hunger. Elementary living conditions are inaccessible luxury. Even greater luxury is peace. Africa is tormented by disagreements between Eritrea and Ethiopia, civil war in Sierra Leone, unrest in Sudan, Somalia, genocide in Rwanda, wars in Congo, and unstable peace in Brazzaville. Endless negotiations about Western Sahara referendum. No remedy has been invented so far to cure the diseases that have been torturing Africa since the 20th century. Despite numerous declarations proclaimed by the international community, resolutions of the Security Council of the United Nations, let alone the West, even generations of graduates from Moscow Patrice Lumumba University, nurtured in the spirit of Soviet peace, are helpless to fight all this.
Nevertheless, it was unexpected to hear from a passerby. Are you still here? All white people got out long time ago, scared. White, black, yellow, our usual colors, though how easily in our lips they become symbols of contempt, hatred, mistrust, intolerance.
This equatorial part of Africa dislikes white people. They even avoid living there, except Abidjan, where there are 1% of the white. We were certain that at least in the African stage of our route, 6 bikers from Ghana would join us. Unfortunately, they had not been concerned about the ride. This ride was just an excuse for them to obtain visas to the Schengen countries and to remain there. They did not receive visas, and the ride through Africa had to start 8 old timers. Back in Abidjan, Slavik fell ill, and he was compelled to stay there for treatment. In a week, Ahmed, Oliver, and Manuel were taken ill. The doctor diagnosed malaria. Manuel and Oliver had their bicycles stolen, and the other major stopped, and they were forced to break their ride through Africa. Ahmed also flew away. Sigitas has fallen ill too. He isn't able to rise or even to move. But Sigitas is Sigitas. Already in 2 days he pedalled down the road. Approaching Guinea, we meet Slavik awaiting for us. Now the 5 of us are on the ride. As the train wheels were rumbling, Goda's purse was pulled out of her back. For 5 days she had been trying to get to the nearest town with a bankomat. We lit a candle, as it was completely dark, but the thief had vanished. In the church, the generator is switched on as the priest is going to preach a sermon. Finally, we managed to load our computer and to switch over to the internet.
In Senegal, the news reached us that our government had allotted 40,000 liters to us. The hope to reach Japan sprang out. The news has raised everybody's spirits. We are flying as if on wings. All the surrounding people seem so close and nice.
Sometimes you have to take the first step to make somebody closer to you.
But not with a camera in your hands. These are areas where it is forbidden to take pictures. Some natives are convinced that their souls may be stolen, while others are afraid to be sold to slavery? Is it sacred naivety or genetic memory? Many phenomena in Africa are mystical and incomprehensible to us. The tom-tom sounds may mean both, making a truce and starting a war. To comprehend all this, one has to be born here.
What are we doing here? Does the ride of our miserable quintuplet make any sense?
Neither search for new experiences nor exotic sights will redeem the blood, sweat, and tears, nights in rubbish heaps and perpetual thirst, unless somebody remembers having seen white people without weapons, without armored vehicles, and they were feeble and hungry, just like us. It turns out that the white men be not only slave dealers.
Through the Sahara, motor caravans go only when guarded. It's not allowed otherwise, for by going astray it's possible to drive onto a mine. We took a flight over the desert. In a few hours we came to a completely different world. Polish television got interested in our ride. They promised to buy Slawek a new bicycle and to give him money to finish the trip.
We successfully escaped the drug distributors and their expensive cars. We even had to hide behind bushes. After almost 3 months, we reached Europe via Gibraltar. Don Quixote is halfway there.
The Peace Riders would like to thank the UNESCO in Lithuania, the Lithuanian and Polish Diplomatic Corps, the Lithuanian communities of all the countries that they visited, the cyclists, relatives and friends, and all the people of goodwill. You are from my ballad. Through the world a man is wandered. Go through the world, carry the good name of Lithuania, and leave it and come back to your country, richer and happier than before you left. Aldona and Bernardus Bradzionis, immensely popular Lithuanian poet, who was forced to emigrate in the 40s. The story of Lithuanian war refugees and economical emigrants dates back more than 1 century. Wherever they had found themselves, they used to rally to communities, assisted and supported one another in misfortune. Together they retained the native language, traditions, faith, and hope to return. It had never happened before that people of the same nationality, having found themselves somewhere abroad, wouldn't help one another. Moreover, would have to hide from each other. Nowadays, hard-working Lithuanians are afraid not of the police, not of employer swindling, but of the racket of their countrymen. What is our image before the world? In prisons of what country have there not been any Lithuanians? In Scandinavia, this word causes mortal fear. What has happened? Is it aggressive nature, consequences of atheistic education, or perhaps a lack of humanitarian intelligence?
Don Quixotes on wheels.
Europe has been open to we Lithuanians for over a decade. Forgotten is the time when one was able to see the continent with only a commercial pass. I wonder what was Walter thinking about having first entered the country, whose crown's vessels had carried out his homeland's goal, in exchange leaving the Spanish language and peaceful Christian faith. Probably that people here do not differ much from his compatriots. Good morning, Gode. Is it comfortable to sleep here?
On the cement, it's very comfortable. Everywhere is comfortable.
Comfortable?
Barcelona is extremely gigantic and very cold.
But have you had a good sleep?
Yesterday we had to spend much time on searches for a place to put up. We arrived at 10 p.m. and laid down only at 1 a.m. They chased us everywhere, from everywhere. Nobody wanted to hear or listen to us. You know, this is not a kind of village where people feed you and offer you shelter. So, welcome to Barcelona. Welcome to Barcelona.
Why did the Spanish Hidalgo Don Quixote, who left La Mancha in order to protect values that had been ridiculed since times immemorial, why has he become the universal symbol of idealism? Deeds we never dare to perform ourselves seem to us queer and unintelligible. A 62-year-old Spaniard, Alberto, having taken a pledge to visit Christ's sepulchre, pedalled with us till turning point to Italy, from where, as centuries ago, pilgrims leave blessed by the Pope. Again 2 Italians, Carlotta and Pierre, joined us in Lyon for the rest of the voyage. They have read all our letters and know them by heart, and feel as if having travelled with us since the start.
From the Spanish-French border, our guide becomes Xavier, the author of the English website. He has dreamt of this ride. He works with computer programs and puts the ride's impressions, photos, and other regular information free of charge. We express our sincere gratitude to him and the team of design studio Linkarta, who devoted their leisure time to maintain the Lithuanian network. Owing to them, the digital wheels of the ride go round.
Today is the 21st of June, the 310th day since we left Lithuania, the 27th day in Europe, the 13th in France, 22 days to Lithuania.
and 216 to the finish in Japan. And Chisa from Croatia joins us in Paris. She has just alerted by global internet web. In the UNESCO headquarters in Paris, the constant representative of Lithuania, Mrs. Ugnė Karvelis, nicknames us practicing peacemakers. The executive director in charge of information and telecommunications, Henrikas Juškevičius, hands over purposive assignation, $2,000 for internet expenses.
Having spent the night in the Lithuanian embassy, located in a modest room, as the original building is still captured by the Russians, we hurry to Belgium. Cars occupy the roads. Every year, over 8% of cyclists are killed in car accidents. To pay homage to them, the Brussels Club organise a ride of protest. Some people use bicycles for exercise, others for entertainment. Many combine both in city and streets. Belgians want to legitimise the rights of a bicycle as a transport means and envy the Netherlands that has made a paradise for cyclists thanks to the efforts of their government.
We cycled in Amsterdam, a canal, a river, some obscure apartment. A strange person saved us from the cold, gave tea, light. What else do you need? It's the second time that people know what you need even before you ask. A man comes up and says, "I felt awkward to propose. I just thought I'd ask," he says. "I felt uneasy about offering you." So, but for him, we wouldn't have been here. I don't know. We would have stayed overnight in the street.
Utopias are of different types. Ecotopy is an ecological ride throughout Europe, participating in which Oliver and Manuel caught up with us. They recovered after their African diseases and saved for new bikes.
This is a campsite, our home tents. The biggest tent belongs to our leader, Sigitas. He says, "It's heavy to carry, but I have comfort." And she is a smarty. She has provided herself with such a hammock, and so she sleeps swinging. The roof is big, even a bicycle finds place under it. The Italian couple manages to fit in twice as small a tent as Sigitas. And this is my bicycle and my house. It's already the third day that Oliver from Germany goes with us again. His tent is the smallest, the lightest. It weighs only 1.5 kilos. Manuel is with us again. I'm writing to my sponsor. He has no kitchen, has no breakfast, so writes a journal instead. As always, the latest riser is Slavik from Poland and Walter from Peru.
In Germany we visit Günther. He turns out to be the keenest pacifist. Was the first to cross the seemingly unsurmountable barrier, the Berlin Wall. Then a tremendous distance between the two Germanies. Europe gave birth to 2 world wars, communism and fascism, crematoria, gas chambers and genocide. Lithuanian intellectuals were imprisoned in Stuttgart concentration camp, whose peaceful resistance prevented Lithuanian young men from being used to form SS death squads. Brutality of the last war eradicated the disagreement between neighbours, Lithuanians and Poles. From Poland we take with us Valdik, another Pole in the team, and make haste. As one professional cyclist accompanying asked, "Do you always ride like that?" "What do you mean like that?" "Like zombies." "What do you mean like zombies?" "Well, exhausted and drowsy." But we are speeding home to Lithuania, although only for a short time. Probably it is only human, or perhaps we are so brought up that as soon as we return home, our hearts become softer. A man wants to console himself, to recount all those hardships, constant lack of means, haste, and problems about visas. It's high time now to answer then the essential question and unburden hearts to those who might have envied the adventures, exotic sights, and even failures of the trip, while sitting cosily in front of TV or computer display, following the journey and secretly thinking, what a pity it's not me riding. We have to set such people at ease and gladden them. Not you. You wouldn't have gone for sure if only you knew what we were going to tell you right now.
The beginning is the beginning, from the archives of Lithuanian national TV. The world invented the bicycle a long time ago, but with it to help to discover the world, to explore it and to try to change it, would dare but a few.
That would be sort of a peace ride when people of all countries and various races, different nationalities, together demonstrate to humanity that it is possible to live together, nicely and peacefully.
Representatives from over 70 countries are now preparing to participate in this international project supported by UNESCO. The route of this ride is going to stretch through most troublesome regions: Serbia, Bosnia, Croatia, Palestine, Syria, Afghanistan. As a joke, I sometimes tell my friends that I'm going to cycle wearing a bulletproof vest. However, I don't know what will be in reality.
To my mind, things never happen the way you planned them. While travelling, such situations occur that you realise you could never predict, never foresee them. What is most fascinating about journeys are those unexpected surprises.
Edward was gazing without uttering a word, as if prejudiced. After elimination ride through West Europe, the Lithuanian team consisted of this triplet, Sigitas, Edvardas and Goda. The ride was planned to be started in Vancouver, Canada, with finish in Australia, but no Lithuanian participants were on the list of the route. How come? The world headquarters of Great Millennium Ride in the state of Arizona lies a letter signed by the chairman of the parliament. The route is urgently changed according to the new circumstances. Hooray! Lithuanians are not outsiders.
The great expiation cherished by humanity is peace. Thank you for carrying this token and hope.
As always, Landsbergis is to blame for everything. It is through his fault that Lithuania will be burdened by great expenditures. 500 travelers and bikes will have to be properly lodged. In addition, they will be accompanied by lions and panthers of the world mass media, so that a considerable budget has to be assigned to engage best artists, leisure organizers and entertainers.
The whole world is flocking together. Candidates are selected. Morbid competition has started.
Somebody will imitate a hero. For someone, that will be a kind of tourism. In fact, according to the initial scheme, the bikers' caravan was supposed to be accompanied by a bicycle repair workshop, a truck with spare parts, mobile kitchen in the less civilized parts of the route. In other places, care about the travelers will be provided by participating countries.
The work has been carried on impressive projects, documents, making up estimates, money collecting was planned.
Bicycle producers were competing among themselves for the honor to supply the peace caravan with 500 brand new bicycles free of charge. Television companies plan exclusive interviews, city municipalities took additional precautions to ensure peace and security, and so on and so forth.
According to initial rough estimations, the whole approximate sum was about $34 million US, the currency of the organizing country, 5,000 for every participant included.
It would be splendid to drive around the world and to be paid for that. New impressions, different countries, receptions, picnics, at least all this was meant to be free of charge.
Except for countries' candidates, of course.
Lithuania, wishing not to lag behind other European countries, at least from neighboring Poland, willy-nilly would have generously opened the treasury, again owing to Landsbergis.
Fortunately, there was no need for that. Money, as always, was substituted with enthusiasm, as the initiators and organisers of this grandiose ride had not managed to raise the millions planned. At the very beginning, such an idea was doomed to failure. Those funny enthusiasts, they intended to find money for peace. For weapons, for war, yes, it's a solid business. Peace is the occupation of not serious people. One intelligent wing rocket dropped in the mountains of Afghanistan perhaps cost a couple of $1 billion. The question, how many rockets will cover the expenses of the planned march? The answer is, the march is cancelled. In 68 countries of the world, the preformed participating triplets, honest and naive peace enthusiasts.
Sigitas, Edvardas and Koda had to decide what to do next. We know that their finish was successful, and that Lithuanian President Valdas Adamkus personally handed medals to them. After that, to continue the ride using their own money, which they were short of, one participant even sold his suburb residence. Only crazy people could do. An unpractical physicist, an unpractical philologist, and a sentimental economist who had fallen in love with folk dances and songs. So they saddled their resonance and set off for the trip.
After 11 months, having visited 26 countries, having travelled around half the world, they turned home for a while to gain strength, to hear encouraging words, to meet their friends and relatives whose support and prayers had accompanied them, to see all those who had believed. It is not strange that our President is among them. Dear ambassadors for peace and nature, not only personally, but also on behalf of the whole Lithuanian nation, I greet you and thank you for the march, which you have been performing, riding round the world. This is an exceptional and perhaps the only case when representatives of other countries are with you, joining at different stages of the route. Some of them, as far as I can guess, are together all the time. I wish you to finish successfully, and with pride we are looking forward to welcome back in Lithuania. Thank you very much.
If our route went through the post-Soviet countries, sharing the same destiny, fiasco would have been guaranteed. A miserable, lonesome, lacking faith, lost human being. The distrust of the former slave is common to our neighbors, would as well suppress innate human kindness. Who is cycling? Why? For whose money? Don Quixote's. It's clear. Let them go. That's why we did not need any armed guard. And so, here we go. Irresponsible, with compassion and admiration.
From Goda's letter. My mother fell into tears. I am at home. My staying with her was not long, but incredible from the first to the last minute. I'll never forget that wonderful taste of brown rye Lithuanian bread, which we were treated to on the border. My mother's face, crowds of people standing in the rain, that stiffening chill, fish soup in Neringa, comrades from the Cholet bicycle factory, who repaired my bike without asking. The Telshay residents who delivered a cross for us to carry and erect on the Hill of Crosses. I'll always remember my aunt, whose tears were falling down on those sweet strawberries. My Pope, thank you for being with us. There is one more thing Goda will never be able to forget. That woman in a national costume. She had thrust into her hand a smoked country ham, a homemade white cottage cheese, and a 20 litres pint.
You'll never see how live the best and most sincere people, the Popas. Unfortunately, we're very much like them too. Only a handful of rich Lithuanians can afford themselves to let their children travel and look around the world. Most young people go abroad to earn money. Not all of them are fated to meet poverty, to learn to love their kinfolk and help them. Post-Soviet countries have witnessed how the empire of evil, verbally fighting for peace, in reality was spreading as plague, infecting one continent after another. Multiple words, sacred words, lost their true meaning and sense. For speaking the truth or peacemaking, one could go behind bars. Another empire, the empire of money, declared peace and democratic values, but this did not prevent it from unleashing petroleum wars, investing and killing in the street.
Liberation war, religious war, guerrilla war, sacred war. How many adjectives are invented to justify it? The latest discovery is war for the sake of peace.
A person is always free to make a choice, or at least it should be so. And just after he declines and obeys his enemy, neighbor, his close kin, on the sake of holy peace, he becomes disturbed. If he does so for his own benefit, that's selfishness. If trying to please, fauna, being afraid of somebody stronger, a coward. Forced to behave against free will, feels violated. If avoiding hard work, he's a slave. And if only he does something out of love, he's a free man.
From Walter's letter. Manuel and me, we are in Serbia, as Bulgarian visas were too expensive for us. We were told, why are you going to a country that has been devastated by bombs just a month ago, over which the wave of violence has just rolled, leaving ruins under which people are buried? Everybody whom we had contact warns us against danger and difficult situation in Kosovo. Ethnic cleansing has been directed towards Serbians. Manslaughter, houses and churches burning, robberies and never-ceasing destruction. They don't understand how we are crossing their country on bikes. Moreover, we are planning to reach Hiroshima. It's impossible to describe the feeling when we manage to agitate those people, telling them that we are part of a group travelling around the world for the sake of peace. We realize we have been right having come here, and despite all warnings, we have to move towards Kosovo. An article about us printed in the Belgrade newspaper has served as a kind of permission. Only frontier soldiers can't perceive our motivation to go to Kosovo. They sincerely advise, don't go, it's dangerous. Yesterday 4 people were killed. Go back to the highway. Our route stretches along kilometers of devastated area. From all sides loom ruins, black with smoke. In the former Serbian lands, Albanian banners are flying. People smile to us. In the street we meet another funeral procession. Who was killed now? Why are there so many burnt houses? Is it that only cruelty may substitute discord? The name of Yugoslavia has been blotted out from everywhere. In Pristina, on the pillars and trees, there are lists of people who died through the fault of Serbians. In the vortices of the war, we saw that things were destroyed in order to be rebuilt. Who sells intricate war and death weapons, bombs? Who owns companies that are going to rebuild bridges and roads? Death is on the watch everywhere, but we do know where it ends.
2 Latin Americans, Manuel from Mexico and Walter from Peru. What were they thinking about? Seeing Europe destroyed by bombing. It's not somebody else's pain. It always hurts you.
They rejoined the group in Greece. And now a small digression about classical education. Greece is classic in itself. A professor of the Greek language is the same as any teacher of the mother tongue. Thessaloniki, late evening. From the train, some strange foreigners are tumbling out. A young woman asks in English where they could stay overnight. The professor draws the location of the lodging for the students in the outskirts. Besides, he himself accompanies them there, and as some students frown about the price that is too high, he pays for some of them. Another day, another evening. 80 kilometers from Thessaloniki, the group are pitching their tents on the side of the highway. The professor gets out of an express bus. Who has ever heard of a genuine professor possessing his own car? He shoves bags full of foodstuffs into the hands of the dumbfounded coder, takes the bus, and leaves. That is a true classical education. Could we justify ourselves having not acquired a proper education?
Indeed, we were in some sort of captivity, nurtured in the spirit of hostility between nations. 10 years have passed since we liberated, and look what's going on in our heads. Envy, aggression, intolerance, and other phobias, a sort of gloom. For how many years nobody has boasted of saving the Jewish people? It's only after regaining independence that we have heard of the laying of the sabers in Jerusalem. Peace to your home. The words uttered by Jesus Christ. Why is it not universal? What are the obstacles? What kind of sins or attachments? Envy, provinciality, racism, intolerance to different thinking, stereotypes, eye for eye, tooth for tooth principle.
When having twice overcome the barricaded Palestinian wall, we entered Jerusalem. It was peaceful there.
What is happening now in Palestine came from the past, bitter fruit grown by Satan.
In Jerusalem there is enough room for Judaism, Christianity and Islam. All three religions speak in support of peace. So why is there such confusion in minds and hearts?
Faith is being distorted by selling a female body, legally killing an unborn child, distributing a substitute for synthetic love.
Maybe that's why nobody knows today which way the universe is rolling down.
Bicycle wheels are rolling and rolling along the road and roadside, up the hill and down it. Thus the universe is rolling away from moral policy. Recently, it just escaped being divided into two parts. It is much more difficult to invent a new image of an enemy than to invent a bicycle. The war in its essence is much more dreadful than terrorism. Gigantic states with inexhaustible sources of life force, armament and finances proclaim war to terrorism, separatism, banditism, guerrillas. And here, a handful of people on their own expense and transport, their personal example and selflessness in a quixotic way defend peace, which has been laughed at and violated, but so fragile and much desired by everybody.
Syria. We see the fluttering Lithuanian banner. Here is the Lithuanian consulate. The honorary consul lives here.
Perhaps Lithuanians seem rather menacing to the Syrians. If only they learned that we have entered the country with other passports, not bearing inscriptions about our stay in Israel, we would be famed of being Orient sages. In Jordan, the frontier was closed because of the solar eclipse. We are behind the schedule. In front of us lies the Syrian desert.
When after the heat that has been tormenting you for a few days, you spot that enormous forest of columns of former palace ruins sticking out in the territory as big as 50 hectares, you become deprived of speech. The palace has neither ceiling nor walls. Only those columns are standing. Hundreds of thousands of columns. And all this is almost in the very center of the Syrian desert. The city was built and inhabited by the Arameans, who got tired of being enslaved, and they rose in rebellion against their conquerors. To repress the revolt, the Roman emperor sent numerous soldiery to Palmyra with all possible equipment of those times to demolish strongholds. The Arameans were exterminated and the cities leveled to the ground. The once green and fruitful oasis began to fall into decay, and from formerly vital towns surrounded by slender palm trees, there remains only the fascinating name of the district, Palmyra.
And these gluey remains are already in another state, in Turkey, reduced to dust as names of the nations that dwelt here who knows how many thousands of years ago. And these are ruins of our times. Deported for their support to Kurdian rebels were foothill settlements there around the whole of Kurdistan. For the first time during the march, we were withheld and were not allowed to go further. We not just saw armored vehicles, we were even accompanied by them. Tanks are coming! Let's go!
The first morning in Iran, but the handsome Mount Ararat does not leave us. Iran is the only country we have visited where taking of pictures or films has been banned by state authorities. If the police catch you, not only your camera or video equipment will be confiscated, they also have the legal right to imprison you. By the way, in Iran, it is not very difficult to ransom yourself from jail. For instance, even for killing an Iranian citizen, it is enough to pay 90 million rials. That would be $2,500, and you won't be put in prison. While, for a foreigner's life, it would suffice 33,000 rials. That amounts to $4.
Perhaps that is due to the fact that conquerors have destroyed this once splendid town of Balm.
Who does not believe that this is Pakistan? Here is the flag. In a class of 50 children, only 3 are girls. And now please observe in what convincing victory is going to end Anchitsa's lesson of tolerance. According to our European opinion, there exists one more war, the eternal war between men and women. Discrimination of women, covered faces, no nudity.
Still in Iran, police forced our men to put on long trousers, and the women have to wrap up their heads. God even threatened to be the new Joan of Arc. Her call, throw away the hoods and let your hair blow in the Caspian wind. However, such interference might seem improper. Not everybody has been taught that traditions are superstitions, and religion is the opium of the masses.
They are not going along the river. The road is flooded.
From Sigita's letter, the season of heavy rains has started and undermined the roads. It has reminded us about drinking water. Everybody recommends using only boiled water. Although it is cheaper here than in Africa, a liter and a half costs only $1.
There's no need to speak of minor ailments, though a threat of malaria is hanging over us. Nobody could foresee the doom that is hanging over Walter. It is relentless in counting the time left for him. There is a new participant from Germany with us.
Please introduce yourself.
He told Holger into the ride back in Amsterdam. In Romania, it was as if he took over the baton from Oliver and tried to join us. Due to the irregular internet connection, he caught up with us in Mountain. Unfortunately, it was but if for a short time. In Lahore, his passport was stolen and he had to break the trip. It was his fate.
Here, they see us off. People who took care of us, hosted us, nourished us. They pumped here all the local government. A very unexpected surprise. We arrived late at night, knocked at the door. They gave us lodging. We did not need to pitch our tents. In the morning, all the town authorities came to bid us farewell.
The Golden Temple is the center of the Sikh faith. An old servant tells us about the famous rebellions, of the selfless fight of fearless Sikhs during the Second World War, when the English defended their colonies, granted independence to India. Sikhs are the most martial and courageous warriors in the world. Unfortunately, we could argue about the fact that there is no nation in the world that is not proud of its military victories.
But the history of India knows another type of warrior, Prince Gautama. He became the legendary Buddha, having perceived that no violence may be justified. Human hardships never end, and liberation lies inside us. You may influence other people only by personal example.
The way of peaceful resistance was chosen by Gandhi, and India may be given a literary example of decolonization. However, the homeland of the most peaceful movement in the world, brought death to us.
We couldn't find a place for our tents. It somehow happened that we have been admitted into a spacious yard. Here is tea coming. We've heard something about rice.
The news has reached us that after we left Pakistan, a military coup took place there. Again, the menace of disagreements occurred between those two nuclear neighbors. The juggling with atom may end as in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Malaria has been diagnosed to Goda. She needs expensive medicine. Besides, we have a new member. She's a German. Having met us in Champs-Élysées, she couldn't sleep peacefully until she joined our mission in Delhi. The Germans decided not to let the peace torch from their hands until the finish.
Our difficulties concerning visas have reached the climax. The embassies of China, Laos, Vietnam, and above all of Japan do not promise anything. Letters sent from Vilnius, requests by UNESCO have been lost in drawers. Finally, after 5 days of troubles, assisted by the Croatian ambassador, we received Myanmar visas. Only everybody had to sign personally that we were not going to change the route. An escort was going to wait for us at the border. We agree with everything. Matters as to China are hopeless. In their embassy, it seems we are beating our heads against the wall. You have to obtain visas in your countries. The Polish embassy has contacted the Chinese embassy. It turned out that they have received the papers, but they are not going to give us visas without the letter from a Chinese tourist organization that agrees to be warden to us. Besides, on entering the country, every traveller needs $130 per day, and there are 11 of us, 7 men and 4 women. After several days, we received the visa for Laos and permission to go through Manipur, the wild part of India.
The wheels we use for riding have become the wheels of tormenting. There were days when one felt like a squirrel in a circle, as if one was unable to get out from the circle of Dante's Inferno. It was quite often that you could see the circles of our mission touching the souls, causing their pensiveness and spreading further. Sometimes the wheels of fortune turned to success, a miraculous experience. During the traveling, the wheels of cars, buses, carts, tractors, and even military engines gave us assistance. But train wheels brought us death in Sansara.
The 25th of October. It's the third day as we, exhausted and almost without sleep, are travelling through India by train. The point of changing. In the first, only 3 of us can go with their bicycles. The rest are waiting for another. Here it comes, puffing, horribly tired. We somehow managed to crush in. Walter is almost hanging on the steps. The overloaded train, heat, fatigue, flies, stench, slope, and death sneaks up to Walter and pushed him from the stairs. He fell and lost his life. The screech of brakes and everything got numb. He was handsome, sincere, brave, better than us. He is not anymore.
One day changes another. Total apathy, cremation procedures and the loss, requiem and despair. The Peruvian consul took the urn to Delhi. A handful of ash has remained with us to be taken to Hiroshima. Only this has moved us on. Walter was a karate trainer. He used to say, when it's hard, endure, pray, and go.
We are in Manipur, the region that frightens us us so much. People here are of Mongolian extract. We had to break the voyage. The bridge was broken. We wish to believe it will be repaired. A line of automobiles is piled up here. On the border of Myanmar, the former Burma, we were met by a group of servicemen. Their authorities had not warned them about the calamity which befell us. The soldiers had been dutifully waiting for us in the tents, executing the order given to them. From the village they bring a civilian interpreter. It's then that for the first and last time the name of Nobel Prize winner Aung San Suu Kyi is pronounced. The military Burmese authorities hate this woman for her urgings to sabotage tourism that supports the regime. On entering the country, one has to exchange, or to be more precise, to present to the authorities with $300. Fortunately, an exception is made for us. The soldiers ask no money from us. What is more, they give us shelter for the night, food, and accompany us throughout the country, even through regions that are close to frontier guards. Only over the civil war zone we flew in a plane. We had not the slightest divergence from the itinerary. When in one village we heard of some festival going on in the adjoining village and expressed our wish to see it, especially for us, they bring dancers and musicians in lorries who entertain us till dawn.
Only faces in that village are somewhat atypical. It turned out that they are refugees from Nepal. From bad to worse. That's why they are dancing.
On village streets, people wave to us. They gather around us, listen to us. It was fabulous that we were allowed to say what we wanted. We feared a bit that we would have to pay for such hospitality, to make some declaration, express public gratitude, but there was no need for that.
Attempts to connect to the internet were unsuccessful. It could be that access to information had been blocked in the whole country. We bid farewell to Myanmar with hope that the ruling military dictators would become more open, not just to the participants of the Peace March, whom they had received with such pomposity and hospitality.
Anyway, this path has done its job. Kaput to 3 bicycles. There's no possibility to fix them, neither here, nor in Myanmar, nor in Laos. Where further we will go is not clear. The guards escorting us do not take our bikes or rucksacks. They only accompany us. 10 armed men in a vehicle, 4 motorcycles. Everything is crammed. There's no room for a rucksack or spoiled bikes. The gears are out of order, and here, as ill luck would have it, are mountains. People say miracles do not exist. They do happen. The spoilt detail was cut identical to the original one in a primitive manual way, and even painted black, beautiful. No money was taken. They said it's for you, riding around the world. A present from Laos.
The wonders go on. The Polish embassy in Laos rather easily managed to provide us with Chinese visas without any astronomical sums of money. The Laos People's Democratic Republic was a closed state not long ago. Now all efforts and resources of the rule are thrown into tourism, for it is better to strike up an acquaintance rather than a war. It's much more difficult to kill someone, you know. However, people were killed for the sake of various nice purposes, cultural evolutions in Indochina, and not only.
In the perception of the European world, we have a good problem. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. A goal without a way to it is merely an empty sound, a mere nothing. This is what we forget daily. We were told a legend about a monk who had been striving to purify his soul. He learned how to pronounce truthful words, but there was no placidity in his soul. It lacked something. He presumed that other people also pretend they understand everything, that the others also do live in a similar way, for they are ashamed to admit their ignorance. He had reached fame, was respected by everybody. People from the most distant corners used to come to him for advice. And once he happened to meet on the road an old man, his former teacher, who asked him, "What is a road?" Dark, windless night, stars are blinking, and the reflection of moonlight floats the calm waves in the lake. The teacher shook his head. "Your head has turned bald, you've lost half of your teeth. Your body is no longer vigorous, as if it used to be. Still you have not grasped anything." He fell into tears, for he had not grasped that idea, had not felt that quivering of the world. So he fell on his knees and asked, "Teacher, please, do tell me, what is a road?" The teacher repeated the same words, but with these words the lake only rippled. The waves on the lake glistened with silver, and the disciple recovered his sight to grasp the essence. It is important that humanity is on its road to peace. It is important that it is already on its way.
Peace is an illusion which can't be lost. Peace is hope. Is never going to disappoint you.
Peace is impalpable, but our heroes managed to embody it in reality. In the peace scroll they had been carrying round the world, their ardent desires inscribed: a child, a poet, a president. And if anyone has heard this call, that's Walter's merit. For if you want to achieve something, to accomplish your intentions, it is not always enough to have money, time, good health, and a strong will. Sometimes one needs something more to sacrifice oneself.
All these ashes have found eternal refuge in Hiroshima's suburb, in the plot of land belonging to a Japanese family that survived that tragedy among other ashes of nuclear horror.
Thus was accomplished the dream of Walter and others, who travelled under the banner of the march. The desire for peace of the countries visited has engirdled the world.
Here is a conclusion to end with. Love your neighbor. For the sake you have to see, understand, and know him. When you have it, wars and hatred will lose any sense. Peace will be everywhere.
Blessed are the peace helpers, for they will be called the children of God.